I pulled my cards for today from 5 different decks that all are part of Discovering Beauty, are part of this final deck that I created and have put out into the world and has started arriving in people's mailboxes, which is just this incredible feeling. I had about 1/3 of the deck sent directly from the printer because of a host of reasons. And so even before I see the final products, they have begun arriving. So in honor of that, I took a look back at my previous decks and took today's message from them. So the first card I pulled was Heart Water, which was from this deck that I had printed from makeplayingcards.com, which is a great service. And you can see it's totally worn in. It has images that are on an eco type of paper, and that made the images a little bit more muted. And I also had included words on these cards, which I didn't keep in the final version of this deck, of the iteration that is coming out right now of Discovering Beauty. But I'm really grateful for them because they're translated into French and my partner speaks French. And so these decks allow us, this deck, because there's just one of it, allows us, and it has allowed him to get to know the cards in a different way. And I also had it printed. This was an early version of the cover in a tin, which is a little worse for wear, but I've loved having. So in the future, I think more tins could be neat, but also not the most eco-friendly of resources and not entirely necessary. I think paper boxes are beautiful as well. So Heart Water is this card of tenderness. This is the word that I have underneath it. We see this image of who I think of as a water witch holding this small shelled creature in her hand. And I have a tattoo of a snail on my arm, and it represents inner child for me. So when I pull this card, I think about how I can hold my inner child with an immense amount of tenderness. And from there, how can I take this tenderness and share it out with the world? The second card I pulled is Spirit Air. And Spirit Air is a card about vision and perspective. And this version of the deck I printed at home. It's on watercolor paper that is a cold press, and the back is hand stamped. I got a stamp of the back design printed. So it's the same design, but I hand printed each card. And I love this deck so much because it was the very first time that all 78 images were finished and printed in water from the watercolor originals. So this was the very first Discovering Beauty that had all of the final images, and it smells a little bit like money because it's just on paper and has been handled by me so much because I used it for about 2 months while I waited for this one to come in the mail. So this vision is something that I think of a lot when I think of this project. How can I remember what the bigger picture is, even in the small steps, even in the frustration, even as there is still so much to do? How do we rise up and above and remember our perspective? And how do we claim agency over our thoughts from this place? I know what my bigger picture holds, and I have faith in that vision. So the first 2 cards speak of great tenderness and this ability to remain in vision. And then the next card I pulled is from my final sample of the final cards. So they come in a 2-part box. I edited the box after this iteration, this sample. I added more butterflies. The cards themselves are black edged now. which I think will be cool to see and see how they wear like that. I handle my decks a lot. And yeah, I love that the images are so crisp. The paper color I think is really excellent for the watercolor. So I love these cards, and I'm really excited to have my own copy come. The inside of the box in the sample version was like this, but now this image is much bigger, and as it should be, it matches up with the sides. So this is just the sample box, and the final version is more complete. And with that being said, 9 Fire is a card about boundaries. So I'm the protector of my castle. How do I create boundaries which allow me to feel secure and safe and to flourish? How do I speak what I need? How do I say yes when I mean yes and no when I mean no? So 9 Fire, I protect my castle. I am the one who is gatekeeper here. I know what my boundaries, my limits are. I know what I need, and I speak that into the world as many times as I need to. So we have these messages of tenderness and vision and boundaries. And then the next card I pulled is from the original first professionally printed copy of the deck that I had made, and it's on these cards that are small. It had this white border on them. These carried me through many months, and you can tell in the way that they are worn. These were my color roughs of all of the images. So it's fun to see how some of the drawings stayed incredibly similar and then some matured a great deal. This is one of those images that I feel like the final version is so true to the voice of the card, but I really love seeing this one as well. Voice Water in a traditional deck would be called the Knight of Cups. And I think about this card as a call towards love as a set of actions. How do I surround myself in love? How do I care for myself even when I don't feel like it? What do I need to do to feel nourished and love? And then how do I practice that for the people around me as well? Even when I don't feel like loving, how do I show love to my loved ones? With dedication, with focus, with commitment. It is not wishy-washy and it is not transactional. I love and I practice this love. And then the final card I pulled comes from the very first deck I ever printed. And this is a little sticker I made and stuck. This is a little Muji box. My other decks, like this one, also live in these little Muji boxes that I like quite a bit. And this deck, speaking of how things smell like money, this one definitely does. This is on just regular printer paper. At one point, I dropped a bunch of them into a little pond by where I was living, and I kind of love that too. The ink bled a little bit. So this is the first version of this deck, and it carried me through so much, these tiny cards. So I have a lot of reverence for the messages that they speak. And this card is 10 Fire, the 10 of Wands, which is a card about releasing burdens. And for me, that often comes up in reference to generational shame that I carry. So this message is one of releasing, of forgiving, of rising as a phoenix from the ashes. I think of this card, 10 Fire, 10 Wands, oftentimes in relationship to awakening or judgment. So today there is a need for tenderness and boundaries and love and release. Maybe it is because there is this feeling that I should be doing something that I'm not doing. And how do I work against that? How do I remember that I have a vision here? And because of that vision, I can set a boundary. I can hold myself with such an immense amount of love that I start generationally healing, that I start a type of release and forgiveness and a new way of being with myself that burns away the pain of what was. I arise freshly from this place with a need for protection, with a need for a great amount of love in action. So today I am taking this message to mean that I go slowly. I care for myself as I would a small-shelled creature, where I see the fragility of this newness, of this place. I remember that there is mission here. My vision is centered and clear, and I proceed protecting and loving myself and all that I have created. So, I am wishing fortified boundaries. I am wishing a real ability to see ourselves as pure and good and safe and true, and to know that we are deserving of love, that we do not have to earn that love, that others also do not have to earn our love. It is always good enough. There is nothing that I need to prove. There is no burden here that is mine to carry. I am free. I am clear. I know my boundaries. I reinforce them. I speak them.